Welcome back to Believe in Jets, a New York Jets podcast on the Believe Podcast Network. More misery, more pain from the New York Jets. That's all they give us. My name is Rami, Lavi, and across from me to break it all down and to tell you why the season is over, former Jets running back, Bilal Powell, BP. What's up, dude?
Man, what's going on? What's going on?
I wish I was better. I wish I was better. I know you know the feeling, and I texted you this maybe last week. I promise you, being a Jet fan, it's got to be worse than playing for the Jets, right?
Yes. Now that I've been retired almost 5 years, the 5 years of misery is definitely a lot worse on this side than it was on the other side.
So what are those players going through right now? What is wrong with this team? Because there's so much talent on that team, and it's so weird. You know, we've talked throughout your career. You've had teams that had hope and then fell apart late in the season. You had teams that from day one, you knew the team didn't have it, right? Where I remember Willie also talking about this. Like, you looked around the room and you're like, we just don't have the talent as much as other teams. This team has the talent. They've been in most games until like this last game and I guess the first game of the season. And yet they look around the room and the season's over before Halloween. Like, what's going on with the Jets right now?
It just looks like they're not in sync from an offensive standpoint, from a defensive standpoint. I'm sure that the locker room guys are looking around. You almost question yourself going into work, which guys are really taking it serious. The laughs sometimes are a little too loud when you're losing. The jokes aren't as funny. The weather change is colder than it really is. And I think there's a lot of frustration going on because when you look at this team on paper, it's definitely a team that could contend in the National Football League and for a Super Bowl championship.
It's so funny you mentioned that because every week it seems like Rodgers is always so calm and on McAfee and don't worry, we got this. We're turning around. Oh, look, it's my buddy, Devontae Adams. Here he is on the stream with me. Ha, ha, ha. At some point that grows old and tired. And I think we've gotten to that point. And now Rodgers, instead of further taking a look at himself in the mirror, he's gone on to blame the media. He said, oh, it's your fault. We have to stop listening to you guys. That's how we improve. And now he's finding new ways to blame other people. So do you think there is a problem right now in the New York Jets locker room?
I think so. And the number one thing is who's going to hold Aaron Rodgers accountable?
And the question
right now,
been asking for 2 years.
Yeah, like who's going to hold him accountable? Who's going to say you're not playing your best? As a matter of fact, your statistics are second to one of your worst careers, seasons in your career. So who's going to hold him accountable? You know, you got Robert Saleh out of the way. You got Nathaniel Hackett out of the way. But that does not stop Aaron Rodgers from throwing interceptions. Right now, he has 7 interceptions he's thrown. And this is very early in the season. And we all know when you start to turn the ball over, there's a lot of frustration. So you have to find a way to take care of the football. You have to find a way to score touchdowns, not points, score touchdowns in the red zone with Aaron Rodgers in his offense.
Aaron Rodgers, after his first interception in this game, which was just an ill-advised throw, a throw that you don't see from Aaron Rodgers, the Steelers then scored 31 consecutive points. The Jets were up 15-6. They're driving down the field. It's like, okay, just get points here. Hold the ball to the end of the half. You get the ball back first. Even if you go to the half at 18-6, all of a sudden you come back. You have a chance to put another 3 on the board. By the time the Steelers get the ball back, they could be down 2 touchdowns. Instead, you give them the ball there, they score there, and then you throw the other pick, obviously, coming out of the half with Garrett Wilson, which he has to catch that ball. And yet, with all that said, Bilal, Aaron Rodgers currently, according to PFF, is the highest graded Jet on offense. I think when you watch him, he actually looks like he's improving week over week. Some of the hesitation and the throws and decisions he's making are still confusing for a guy's age, but maybe that's coming back from the injury. Physically, though, I still think he has it. So what's going on with the offense as a whole outside of Aaron Rodgers? Or do you think it's really all on Aaron Rodgers?
Well, Aaron Rodgers having the highest PFF on his offense is, it's not saying very much. It's not saying much when you're talking about
this says more about the other guys on the offense.
It does. And honestly, from a statistic standpoint, they're one of the top 5 teams in drops. they'll continue to drop the ball. As a matter of fact, the first pass of the game to his buddy was a drop, fresh off the private jet coming from Las Vegas. He opened the game with a drop. So the misery of drops continue for the New York Jets and the offensive line. They're not giving them enough time. And at that time, you're thinking injury, you're thinking Achilles, you're thinking age. Aaron Rodgers has all this stuff going on in his head. No matter if he's a premier guy or not, a franchise guy or not, if you see a pass rush as a guy I'm almost 41 years old, I'm not worried about what's going on downfield, or I'm trying to get rid of the football. And I think that's where a lot of the turnovers are coming because of the pass rush that he's getting from the opposing team.
Aaron Rodgers said in the postgame, in addition to blaming the media, he said the team was flat. How the hell is a team flat going into Pittsburgh on a Sunday night football game that's must win, season on the line, save the season? We just announced that Hassan Reddick's coming back. We just got Devontae Adams, your best friend, in here. Isn't your job as the quarterback to make sure this team isn't flat? Like, how the hell do you say this team is flat? And by the way, they're up 15-6, so tell me they were flat. I mean, I understand they were deflated coming out of the half because they should have been up more, and Rodgers throws that terrible pick, but what do you mean flat? How are you flat going into that game? It's not like it's late in the season yet. It's not even, it's October, it's mid-October, and you have a chance to save your season and get it back on track, and you come out flat. Like, that is such an indictment on everyone in that room, including, and most importantly, you, the quarterback.
Yes, and Aaron Rodgers was the guy that called out Robert Saleh for the excuses and trying to make excuses. I think it's time to stop making excuses at this time. I think the fans are frustrated. I think players now becoming frustrated because of the excuses. You have to find a way to fix it. You're paid as a professional, as a coach, as a player, to fix it, analyze it, and fix it. And whatever the problem may be, I don't know if it's a locker room problem. I'm not in a building, but it just doesn't seem like that team is like gluing together. And, you know, this is a team where you're talking about they're veteran led from an offensive standpoint. They're veteran led. Now it's time to maybe get a players only meeting and stay a little longer after all the meetings in the PM and just find a way to fix things. And it can happen. Teams have done it over the years. You've seen teams turn it around. But Aaron Rodgers talking, and I will say this. Aaron Rodgers talking, how many guys are accepting that now? Like, are guys starting to see who Aaron Rodgers really is? I don't know what that is. I don't know because I'm not in a locker room. But I would think that a franchise quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks that probably came through here to give the New York Jets a chance to win a Super Bowl ring, how are they not turning this around? How do they not want to turn this around? How is the offensive line not fighting and straining for a quarterback with the skill guys that they have, with the defense that they have to go out and want to win this thing?
Aaron has to know today when he goes on McAfee, and I'm really curious to see what he says today because he has to know that this whole room is now watching him. They're following your lead. So all the things that you say, they're following your lead. And when they see you at 2-4, laughing it up with McAfee, and now at 2-5, if you go on with that same attitude you had last week where you just, laugh it up with your buddy on Pat McAfee, it's all jokes, it's all fun and games. If the room sees that, why would you ever expect them to turn it around? Why would you expect them to get serious and get going? I wouldn't expect it. So I want Rodgers almost to be pissed off. I want to see him on McAfee mad. I want to see him take accountability. Stop pointing the fingers, look in the mirror, and understand it's go time. It's now or never. I think it's too late. I really do. And I'll tell you why. Maybe you disagree with me on this. The reason why I think it's too late is because they basically have to play perfect football the rest of the way. Because even if you play perfect football, you're still going to lose a couple of games where just another team comes in and beats you, right? I mean, you could speak to that sometimes you just get beat, right?
Yeah, you do get beat. And,
yeah,
you never want to be in a situation where you do what you need to do, but you have to worry about so many other scenarios happen. Like, I've been in that position like a few times in my career in New York where if we win these games, well, this person has to lose, this person win. All you had to do was handle business early on in the season.
And that's the spot the Jets are in right now, where they have to worry about other factors and other things. And unfortunately, this team is not good enough to play flawless football. They have too many errors. They commit too many mental errors. They commit too many physical mistakes. this team is never going to play a perfect game. And so for that reason, I cannot see the season being turned around. I just don't see a way that this franchise, the way they're currently playing, can all of a sudden go from this mess to everything all of a sudden being perfect. And it has to be perfect the rest of the way. There's no margin for error anymore. And unfortunately, the season's over.
Oh, it's not over until it's over. I'll say that much. But I will say this. There was a clip out there with Lamar after their first win. They started off really slow this year. And there was a clip where one of his teammates put him on live. And he had this straight face, Rami. And he said, "We won one game. Get off live. What are we doing?" And since then, they went on a win streak because there was accountability from the leader, because you go as your leader goes. So Aaron Rodgers need to just take the accountability, all right, and say, we need to turn it around, and it starts with me. Guys want to hear that. Guys want to hear Aaron Rodgers stand before them and say, most of this is on me, all right, guys? I'm going to fix it. You need to fix it. Instead of, hey, guys, you need to fix it, all right, and pointing fingers. The best quarterbacks, Ryan Fitzpatrick was one of my favorite quarterbacks ever that I played with. He always took that. He took the blame. No matter if it was the other guy's fault, he took the blame. And as a teammate, you appreciated that, and you wanted to work hard for him. You wanted to block for him. You wanted to do certain things for that guy because he said, you know what? I have your back and you have my back. And it needs to start with that with Aaron Rodgers before the season starts to continue to slip away in their hands.
Yeah, it's amazing you mentioned Lamar Jackson. I'm so happy you brought him up because I wanted to bring up Lamar Jackson this morning. I obviously worked in Baltimore for 2 years with the Ravens radio. I saw firsthand Lamar Jackson every single day and how he prepared and how he carried himself. And that Marlon Humphrey video that you talked about, the Marlon Humphrey live, where Lamar's like, get out of here. Like, what are we doing here? They were 0-2. They win one game, and all of a sudden you're celebrating this. And since then, they haven't lost a game. And Lamar looks incredible in these games, right? Lamar looked amazing last night. And I was watching some of his press conference this morning, some of the post-game press conference from last night. I was watching it this morning. And Lamar Jackson is just like, yeah, I mean, this is what we expect to do. This is what we're supposed to do. We haven't done nothing yet. He knows until they beat Kansas City in the playoffs, they haven't accomplished anything yet. That's where his standard is at. That's where they are. So he could come off looking incredible on Monday Night Football last night in front of the whole nation, and he looks like the best quarterback in the world right now, the way he's playing. And he still gets up there. And he's like, no, let's keep it even keeled. We have work to do. This is serious business. And the idea, the thought that when I was in Baltimore 2 years ago, people actually thought that this team was going to trade Lamar Jackson somehow, was going to trade this level caliber superstar. Like, it's mind-boggling to think that people actually believed that they'd move on for him. Like, I remember people like Jet fans were saying, would you rather trade for Lamar Jackson or sign Aaron Rodgers? I mean, I don't know. What? I mean, the idea that this superstar was ever even thought about to get traded, it's unbelievable. He's the best quarterback in the league right now.
He is, and he's playing like it. But you're starting to, you see that turnaround. You see that leadership and how contagious it is. I mean, they struggled with running the football, and now they're running the football. Yep. It does, and you have to take that into consideration. No matter if you have a team full of veterans, like Aaron Rodgers is considered one of the best quarterbacks that ever played his game. So he has a line of respect that if he takes the accountability and he puts it, you know what, man, I have to put this on my back. Other teammates start to notice that. But when you start to point fingers and when you start to like point every direction except to me, then teammates notice that. And then that causes this division among your team and your other veterans and your other guys who are considered leaders. And then that's when it all starts to fall apart.
Was there ever a point that you can remember in your career where the quarterback was pointing fingers and that led to other people in the locker room starting to point fingers at each other and that divided the room?
I wouldn't necessarily say a quarterback, but the guys who were considered leaders started to point fingers. Guys who, they brought in an organization to be that leader, to bring you on a winning. You don't need to give me
names. Just give me jersey numbers.
No, I wouldn't do that. But
we're trying to make headlines, Bilal.
Hey, listen, there are guys who were considered the leaders and the guys that come in to bring a winning culture that when things didn't go their way, they started pointing fingers. It causes a division among players. It causes a division among coaches with coaches coaches with guys upstairs, and it's just not fun. It's not fun to be in the building when things like this are going on throughout the season.
It's so funny because I remember in Baltimore, there was turmoil when I was there. It's not like it was always perfect. There was the Greg Roman stuff. There was the Lamar Jackson missing a playoff game because he was hurt, but was he really injured? There were things that happened, but when you have the right leadership and you have the right people, you figure it out. And you talk about players coming over from winning culture, winning organization. Morgan Moses, who was a New York Jet and then goes to Baltimore, learns what it means to be part of a winning culture, to be part of a winning organization, comes back and is balling out and is leading this team. You talk about the offensive line at times struggling. I didn't even think the offensive line struggled in the pass pro on Sunday night. I thought they struggled in the run protection, but they didn't struggle in the pass pro. And shout out Morgan Moses. He allowed 0 pressures in 27 one-on-one snaps against TJ Watt. How incredible has Morgan Moses been for this team? And does it come back to him having the accountability and leadership that he learned in Baltimore? And that's why he's playing better than anyone else on the field.
I think so. And listen, he's probably a guy that went and saw and smelled what it looks like to be on a contending team, to have a guy behind him that he knows I have to protect him or our season is over with. There's a standard that he has as a veteran, and he is playing good. And I hope that when they're looking through film review and they're getting graded and they're getting called out, then they're not taking criticism. They're taking coaching. Like sometimes these guys are too prideful to take coaching, and it's their way or no way. And hey, this is how I've been doing it, especially guys coming from other organizations and other systems. Hey, this is how I did it. And this is how I became a Pro Bowler or all pro guy, or this is how I, kept my career going. And they don't want to take that coaching. But you see a guy like Moses who's doing a good job, who's buying into the system. You have to come over to an organization and you have to buy into whatever that organization is trying to do. Maybe that's, I don't know, meeting and hanging out with young guys or being a good teammate, good locker mate, whatever that is. Like all that plays a part, Rami, in just being a good football team, because the good football teams are player led. They're not coaches led. So if the coaches have to continue to stand up and find ways to make excuses, you see what happened to your head man. All right. So now if players don't step up and take that accountability, then everybody's got to go, come on, Woody, everybody. I'm sure right now everybody's on alert that things could happen. So, I would like to see them turn the season around.
Yeah. I mean, if not now, then never. Like it's actually now or never now. And so, like you said, everyone's job is on the line. They're going to blow it up. They're going to get rid of Rodgers. They're going to let the veterans walk. They're not going to keep putting up with this. If it's going to be a blow it up situation if the season keeps going down the drains. There's no other way to look at it. A couple other things. We mentioned the run game. I thought Brees looked better, but more in the pass game than the run game. I feel like Braylon Allen, if it's a running down, should be more in there. And then if it's like an option where you could pass or run, I like to see Brees in that situation. It feels like we haven't seen them on the field at the same time, which is weird because we saw that so much early on. What's going on in the run game? What are you seeing?
I just think from a run game standpoint, I watch Tyron Smith just completely miss guys.
He's whiffing
in the ring. Yeah. He's whiffing. And honestly, right now, PFF, he's one of the worst tackles, or in that middle to like last in certain things in his PFF. Let's be honest, we're talking about sacks. He's 117th out of 120. We're talking about the run game. He's 109th out of 120. Like that's not what you want to see from a guy you brought over.
Penalties too.
And oh yeah, from a penalty standpoint, he's 109th out of 120 tackles for the most penalties committed by a tackle. And you do not want to see that from a guy you brought in to help you win, especially a veteran guy. And you can't say this his age, because Moses is the same age. Yep. Morgan Moses is the same age as Tyron Smith. And you would hope that, hey, I don't know, maybe Tyron Smith should be moved to right tackle and you switch the guy. I don't know what it is, but
the other
I think he needs to play better.
The other option is you have a pick. You just spent a top pick on Olu Fashanu. Like, do you
Give
want
him
to
a
see him
shot.
in the
I think
lineup?
it's time to evaluate him more at practice to see if he's ready. I think you put him in position that if now you get in a game situation where Tyron Smith isn't performing, then you put the rookie in, a guy that you invested so much money in. When you invest that type of money, that means you trust him and you believe in his athletic ability. Give him a shot and let's use all our pieces, because like you said, this team is going to be broken up. It's a team full of veterans. If it's not this year, then it may take a while for the New York Jets. If not, if we may ever see them back in the playoffs. I mean, I haven't seen them in the playoffs. What, this is almost going on a
It'll be
14th
14.
season.
Yep.
14th season. So if I was Woody Johnson, if I was anybody upstairs, I would be trying my hardest to figure out what we need to be doing. How many pieces do we need to continue to move? Because there's still plenty of season left.
But it's getting late early. That's the problem. And so you have to start making changes. And one of the changes we keep talking about is in the return game. And Xavier Gibson, how many times do we need to see him fumble a ball or drop a ball or wave fair catch when there's nobody in front of him, or try and return it when there's people right in front of him, take it out of the end zone when it's deep in the end zone and he could have just gotten to the 30? Like, what is happening with this guy, and why? Can we get Brant Boyer on the podcast? What's he not seeing?
I don't know. And, I called that from day one, and I knew that when he scored that touchdown against the Buffalo Bills, that was one of the things that helped him in his career. But when I look at returners, kick returners, punt returners, when the ball is in your hands and the opposing team is not holding their breath, then you have to look somewhere else, because that's an opportunity to steal yardage and steal touchdowns. Andre Roberts, you remember him a couple years ago, went to the Pro Bowl, was a veteran. He was a game changer for us. I believe that year he had about six returns or something like that.
I gotta check. He was
up. He was a Pro Bowler that year, but we weren't that good. But it was like he brought, he was electrifying from that standpoint. And I don't see that from this guy. And I think McCall Hartman had an opportunity to do that last year. So you just don't. I don't know whose call that is, but I would like to see someone else back there.
Yeah. Yeah, and McCole, by the way, you see him playing well in Baltimore. Not in Baltimore, in
Kansas City.
In Kansas City now, of course. I was trying to look up Andre Roberts. I couldn't find I saw it was showing his other stats, but I was trying to find his return stats. We'll find it at some point. Lastly, before we take a quick break, I wanna ask you about this. We talk about players at some point they just need to play better. What the hell's going on with Quinnen Williams? You're his teammate. You know the guy. We've had him on the show. We love Quinnen Williams. We are a pro Quinnen Williams podcast. He hasn't been the same at all this year, not even close. Does Hassan Reddick coming in change that? Because he'll see less double teams. There'll be better guys on the edges. I don't know. Even with the double teams, it feels like he just has to be better, and he's not. He's not making plays. Where's Quinnen Williams?
I think it in that position, being an interior guy, you have to have guys around you. You have to have the scheme plays a part in that too, creating lanes for you and taking on double teams and, doing some stunts. So a lot of that has to do with scheme. A lot of it has to do with the talent that's on the defensive line right now. One thing that I notice is I see Quinnen Williams on the sideline quite a lot this season. I've seen him on the sideline. But does
that speak to his conditioning?
I don't think it's conditioning. I don't know what it is, honestly. I can't tell you because I'm not in there. I do know when you start to see things like this, then there's a chance that there could be some movement next year. I've seen it from guys like Muhammad Wilkerson, Sheldon Richardson, Quentin Coples.
But those are both guys, Sheldon Richardson, Muhammad Wilkerson, who got paid and then weren't the same after they got paid. I don't know. Can you say the same thing about Quinnen Williams? He's not the kind of guy that it feels like, and again, him personally, we've met a couple of times now. Does he seem like the kind of guy who gets paid and all of a sudden he's just not the same player because he got paid? He's taking reps off. He's taking what's happening?
No, that's not Q. I know he's not taking plays off. I think it's more of just the personnel grouping. When you're around good players, man, it allows opportunity to be given to you. Like now you're the guy in that middle where all the attention is here. We don't have to worry about those other guys. The game plan is to, hey, let's find a way to block 95. Whereas if you had some other dogs on the offensive line, it's like, well, we can't just focus on this guy because then this guy can create things and then this guy can create things. And I think you're starting to see that from a personnel standpoint from the defensive line. They lost some good interior guys to free agency and trades and stuff like that. But hopefully, Hassan Reddick could give Q a boost to take some pressure off of him. McDonald is doing a good job, but he's doing a good job, but he's not that guy that we have to game plan for.
No, he's a specialty guy. You would have rather have Jermaine Johnson out there, obviously.
Yes, exactly.
But unfortunately, Jermaine's hurt, so I think Hassan and Will McDonald. Look, I can't keep watching Michael Clemens on the edge. You know what I mean? I mean, it's pathetic at this point. How pathetic is that guy? He never sets the edge. 90% of the time, he's on his ass. Like, it's just crazy. I don't understand how this guy gets reps in the NFL because he's got a bit. He comes in and he walks in shirtless and he looks jacked. Like, this guy is what? And maybe he's a great dude. And maybe
Rami, that's personnel. That's depth. Yeah. That's personnel. That's the reason why Quinn is not doing what he's doing last year because, like I said, when you're sitting in on a scouting report, you're saying this is what we need to do to this guy, that guy. And if it's not 4 dogs on the offensive line, you only have 1, then we're going to focus on that 1 and let everybody else handle the other guy.
Pressure with 4 ever. Forget about pressure with 4. If you send 4 as the Jets right now, maybe this changes this week with Hassan Reddick. When the Jets send 4, quarterbacks just sit there and have all freaking day. It's pathetic.
And that also creates penalties on the back end when the quarterback's back there
100%.
All that time.
And how many broken plays do you see on the back end? How many times do you see guys running wide open because they're covering for 8 seconds downfield?
8 seconds, yes. And that's why people don't understand. There's a complete like accountability when you're talking about an overall team, man. Like there's so many things that you can't see from a TV version of the game, a TV copy that you have to go and film and watch. Like when the quarterback's back there and he has all this time, you're going to either create 2 things. You're going to create a big play or penalties on the back end from your defensive backs. And we've seen both of those throughout this season so far.
Coach BP, I should say, shooting it straight, right? Maybe they should get you in the building, tell people how it actually
Please tell them, call me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you might be their first option as head coach. We'll talk about that after the break. I'll explain why. But before the break, you're wearing a hat. Looks lovely. I'm enjoying watching you wear it. You got some cool background behind you also. I don't know what those are pictures of, but I care more about the hat. What are you talking about? What are you wearing there?
No, man, listen, I like the hat. It's melon. It's still nice. I got my other one, man. I want another one, a red and white one. I want to wear the red and white one. I want a red and white one. Hopefully I can hit him up, tag him, post his picture so I can tag him, and then they can send us another one, man.
Exactly. All right. So Melon, if you want yours, go to melin.com. They're breathable. They're structured. Great material. You never sweat. You never have sweat stains. But if it ever got, for some reason, sweaty, you throw it in the washing machine. It doesn't lose its shape. Like this guy, you see it's starting to lose shape a little bit. Melon hats don't do that. Bilal's hat looks perfect. Not losing its shape at all. So go to melin.com to check them out today. We'll come back after a quick break. All right. Coming back. Some damning, by the way, we talk about Joe Douglas because a lot of people are like, oh, look at Joe. I feel like Joe Douglas has already been neutered by Woody Johnson. Woody Johnson talked about, I fired the head coach. I traded for Devontae Adams. I signed Hassan Reddick. So it seems like the owner's going around the GM. If I was Joe Douglas, I'd just walk away now. Just, okay, bye. But we were just going through, because I went to look up the Andre Roberts stats. We were going through the roster that year and how putrid the roster was in 2018. And the fact that Joe Douglas brought in and built this roster where you look at guys up and down the roster, not all of them were top draft picks, and he's finding guys. Whether you talk about guys like Quincy Williams, there are guys that he's found. DJ Reed, which is a great signing. So many guys on this team that Joe Douglas has found and built this roster. I can't help but just give Joe Douglas credit. And there are so many people who are ready to just write him off and blame him. And maybe he gets fired at the end of the year, but I think he's done a great job.
Yeah, and I don't think Joe will get fired. He
Really?
doesn't. I don't think he'll get fired this year. I think, I think Jeff is interviewing, which I don't think he'll get the job or keep the job, as we are watching before our
2
eyes.
weeks in, he seems overwhelmed.
Yeah, so I don't, but I don't see Joe Douglas getting fired. You see the team that he's built. Like, Joe Douglas can't coach X's and O's.
Right.
He can only give you the players. There's a chain of it. All right. You talk about what he said. Well, I'm bringing this guy, that guy. Those guys fit the system. Devontae Adams fits the system.
Oh, for sure.
Reddick fits the system. So it's not like they're bad picks or these guys are coming in being a cancer. Hassan Reddick wanted to get paid, which I think before the trade happened should have been some kind of negotiation of getting that deal done before we got to this point. Because if you had him early on throughout training camp earlier this season, I think
you're probably not 2-5 right now.
You're probably not 2-5. If you had already thought about going to get Devontae Adams before all of this hit the fan, you might not be 2-5 right now. So I do think that those are good pickups. And I do think that, Joe Douglas may have a year or two left before it's like, okay, we have to move on, because he's put together an incredible roster over the last 3 years that I've seen. A top roster that if you just take away everything and you went preseason prediction, that this would be a very good football team. And the defense has been a very good defense in the last 3 years. They've been a top 10, top 5 defense. Yeah. I mean, they're still in the top 10.
They were so injured in the secondary in the second half of that game. So I don't know how much I blame the defense for that game. They held up as long as they could. But if you are keeping Joe Douglas, you have to let him make the head coaching hire. You have to say, this is the guy who's going to make the head coaching hire. I talk about this a lot. I don't know if you're a Knicks fan. The Knicks were unsuccessful for so many years because Dolan was just bringing in his friends. Dolan was making decisions. And then James Dolan said, you know what? I'm going to give over the basketball operations to Leon Rose. I'm going to bring William Wesley, Worldwide West, and tell him to do things. And they hired their guy, Tom Thibodeau. Tom Thibodeau brought in his player, Jalen Brunson. There's a chain, right? Jalen brought in his buddy, Josh Hart. Now, all of a sudden, Mikal Bridges, all of a sudden, there's an even flow from the top down. When you hear someone who's as respected as Bill Belichick say in the media, Woody Johnson is fire, aim, shoot, or fire, shoot, aim, where he's just blindly shooting and doesn't know what he's doing. And no one should want to play for him. No one should want to coach for him. What coach is going to look at that and say, you know what? I have a coaching opportunity. I'm Mike Vrabel. I have plenty of opportunities. I'm Pete Carroll. I have plenty of opportunities. Let me go coach the Jets. Let me go work for Woody Johnson. When you hear someone who's as respected as Bill Belichick saying that, who are you going to get other than a first-time coordinator who's just looking for their first opportunity as a head coach? Who's going to want to coach this team? And that's a big problem for this team that's looking for a head coach, that's going to be looking for a head coach, and possibly, very likely, a GM this offseason. Where are they going to go when you have one of the most respected guys who's now in the media telling everyone stay far away from this organization?
Well, listen, there's always been rumors about if you want to kill your career, go to New York. That's been going on. And like I told you,
are they wrong? This year is proving them right.
Well, listen, at the end of the day, man, there's other organizations that have been on the struggle. Obviously, the New York Jets are in their 13th season of not being in the playoffs. Could be 14 after this year if it keeps going this way.
I'll bet with you. You think they're going to break it this year? I'll bet it gets to 14 this year.
I mean, the way they're playing, I don't think they'll come close to it, to be honest with you. But as an owner of an organization, at what point do you take matters in your own hands and say, hey, well, I've been letting you do it. I've been letting you do it. I've been letting you make this pick and letting you do that. Well, now it's my turn to maybe I could do a better job at doing it. Maybe I need to bring in those guys like Devontae Adams and Hassan Reddick. All right, maybe we need to get this. Maybe it was Woody Johnson saying, "Hey, we need to get this deal done with a sign because we're not stopping the run or we're not getting to the quarterback." Hey, maybe it was Woody Johnson saying to the offensive coordinator, saying, "Hey, yeah, we need to get Devontae Adams in here because Lazar Allen is leading the league in drops, and we're the number 5 team in drops, and it's causing us wins and points in the red zone." So yeah, I think so. Yeah, if I was the owner, I'd do the same thing. If it's not being done right, I'll try to do my best to make sure that I'm doing everything that's right.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. That's what you have to do, but it just seems wrong where you're going around the guy who you want to be the face of the organization, building the team right now. And unfortunately, that's what's
Do
been
you think
happening.
Aaron Rodgers is it? You think it's
Oh, of
Aaron
course
Rodgers?
it's Rodgers too, but who brought in Aaron Rodgers and gave him all this power?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I told you before. I said, listen, this type of quarterback. What I said this last year. I said, well, he's going to have a lot of say so, and depending on how the season goes, I don't think it's going to sit well with other guys around him in the locker room. Let's be honest.
Well,
And
yeah, I agree. But one guy, and this is the problem, you need someone who's a head coach who can also command the quarterback. He's part of the locker room, somebody who can corral him. One guy who would do that, who would stand up to him and would gladly come back and coach his team, is your former head coach, Rex Ryan. And guess what Rex said about this team, though? Rex went on Monday morning and he blasted the team. He said, they play for themselves. They play as individuals. They're each going out there selfishly. I want to play for my stats. I want to play for myself. I don't care about everyone else. I'm just playing for me. He said they have no pride. They have no heart and soul. They're not getting up and excited. He said he said, you should want to go out there and prove we are the Jets. We're different. We're a good team. We have something to prove. He said this team doesn't do that. What does that look like? And when you hear that coming from your former head coach, what does that make you think?
you got to ask yourself too, as a player, will I run through a wall for my coach? Will I run through a wall for my coach? Does my coach have my back? Does he have my best interest? Those are the questions you ask yourself as a player in that cutthroat business. When you sit in his office, do I believe what he's saying? Like, do I believe that he has my back? And if a player doesn't get that feeling, then yes, you do take the field with selfish intentions. But that starts with the leadership. Like if you can as a veteran, as a player, you can sit and listen to a coach talk and know if he means business or if he really is for you. Because I guarantee you, anybody that ever played for Rex Ryan would say, I'll run through the wall for Rex Ryan. Now put these two coaches up. Now I do think that Jeff Ulbrich, he probably has more respect than Robert Saleh did. And now, you give it a couple weeks or two, right? This is a fresh coach team, from play caller to head coach to bringing in a new guy that didn't even have a full week of preparation. You have to give those things time. And
they don't have time anymore, though.
You're absolutely right. But but they're still in a good predicament. There's still plenty of time left for them to.
2-5.
They're 2-5.
They're 2-5. They have 8 of their next 10 games. They have 10 games left. 8 of them are against teams with losing record, right?
Yes.
All 10 games are on the East Coast. So there's an opportunity here. How do you drill into these players that you said is not playing with pride, is not ready to run through a wall for their head coach, is making mistakes, is playing for themselves, doesn't have accountability? How do you turn all that around this week? Because it starts this week. There is no other time. They're out of time. That's it. How does that all change? Why should I believe, as a Jet fan, why should I believe that this season's going to change and turn around?
Well, I think because you give Devontae Adams a full week of preparation, which I think, this is a guy who came out here in less than a week trying to learn a hard system and try to get on page with a different quarterback. And
no, the quarterback he played with for 10 years.
It doesn't matter. It's different. It's coming from an organization coming back to this guy, or like, man, let me get back into the precision.
He's like probably studied the playbook for the last 3 weeks while he had his hamstring injury in Vegas.
Absolutely not. I don't think so. I mean, I don't even think that was a good thing. But even Todd Downing, man, like we've seen glimpses of this guy in his offensive scheme and what he's shown. Like, let's not get over the fact that the guy that we harped on all last year, the special teams guy, Greg Zuerlein, who is he's 8 for 13 right now.
He needs to be done. They need to move on.
Yeah, but let's not.
Confidence. He had two block kicks in this game. One didn't count, but he had 2 block kicks in this game.
And that's get off time. That's guys missing field goals that help you win games. 2 games that could turn this season around. Like, let's not put this all and say, well,
Yeah,
it's
if you're
completely
4-4
going
right now
downhill
because you made some kicks, yeah.
You'll be 4-4. So, Todd Downing, I think, is doing a good job. Like you mentioned before about the two backs being in at the same time. I don't think honestly, I'm not afraid of that. Like, two backs for me from a defensive standpoint, it doesn't bother me in preparation. Actually, I would love to see two backs instead of going 11 personnel when you're having
The
three of
field
your
looks
dominant
open.
receivers out there.
Yeah,
Put three of your
exactly.
dominant receivers out there.
Look how open the field was for Brees underneath when you have Garrett and Devontae and even Lazard was
Stop
wide
going
open.
12 personnel.
Yeah.
Stop going 12 personnel. And the offense is so predictable. You shift a tight end to the left, 9 times out of 10 you're running that way. Like it's predictable. So I think you get more creative. I think you give the kid from WKU, Malachi Corley, a chance now. Maybe you give him a chance.
And by the way, I know Irvin Charles
fresh
is a
legs
special teamer, but like if Irvin Charles is playing at wide receiver, like isn't there someone else you could put on you can elevate for game day, you could leave someone else inactive, still have Irvin Charles in special teams, but why is he running routes? Like I don't need to see him run routes.
You don't need to be running routes unless guys are saying, oh, my hamstring or this and that, and go in and get that dummy route for me or whatever it is. But man, I still think that the New York Jets have a chance because being a player, I saw it, and we were in a position where we thought it was over, and we had a head coach say, hey, just keep your head down, and when we look up, we can be sitting at a nice situation, but you have to take it one game at a time. You have to take it one practice at a time, and each player, each coach has to take on responsibility. They have to take that accountability. Like what I need to be doing to make sure that I'm doing what is best for the team. You talk about guys going out there individually. Okay, they got that head coach out the way. Let's see how they respond to this coach. Let's see how they respond to Jeff being the head coach, and if they can turn the season around, man.
I hope so, but it's been 2 weeks and it hasn't looked good so far. How's this year worse than last year? Like last year was a disaster. 4 snaps in, I was like, oh man, the first year I'm doing this podcast, it's such a disaster. 4 snaps in, Rodgers goes down, Zach Wilson's a disaster. And this year's worse. How does this happen to me? How does this happen to the Jets all the time? It's getting to the point where if they lose Sunday, or even if they win Sunday, but they lose to the Texans, they have to win every game before the bye. We're talking about a week. I think it's a week 12 bye. Do you know the schedule off the top of your head?
No, I don't.
I think it's a week 12 bye. They have here's what it is. So they have Sunday at home against the Patriots. They have the Texans at home on Thursday Night Football and Halloween. Then the mini bye, right? Where they go to the Cardinals after that, which I guess they're flying out to the West Coast once. And then they come home for the Colts, right? That's before the bye. If they don't go 4-0 till the bye, like any loss in there, if they do not go 4-0 and get to 6-5, or at that point, I don't know math anymore. What would they be?
6-5.
If they go 4-0, they'd be 6-5. Yeah, you're right. I'm right. I got it. I nailed it.
You did.
If they don't get to 6-5, if they're anything worse than 6-5, I don't care if it's 4-6 at the bye, whatever the situation is, 5-6 at the bye, 4-7, the season is over. And I'm it's not just, it's that you become apathetic. You get to the point where you just stop watching. Just, okay. And that's the danger the Jets are in right now. They're one loss away from the fans just being like, okay, we're good. Like, bye. I'll watch Red Zone on Sundays. And that's a problem. That's the problem this organization is facing right now.
Yeah, they just have to play. But like I said, man, go back to 2015. We ran off some games. And, we were that team that teams didn't respect early on. And then we got down to the nitty and gritty, and teams started to realize who we were. But again, accountability. You got to have those guys that take on that accountability. One being the quarterback, Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Starts with him.
It starts with that guy, and
I want to see what he says on McAfee today. I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. I mean, I think Fitzpatrick said something about how Aaron responded to something about a teammate and putting it on a teammate.
Yeah,
like, it does start
with the quarterback. It was what he said about Mike Williams.
Yeah, it does start with him, and like it's the truth. And then once Aaron realizes that, like he should already realize that, being that he's a veteran, I think this entire team turns it around. Like, Aaron, step into a special teams meeting and say, hey, guys, we need some explosion from you guys. Let's do it. And it starts with me. Let's get some energy for practice. I don't know what it is, man. Like, but I'm tired of seeing it. You tired of seeing it?
I've been tired. I mean, I've been tired of this my whole life. So something's got to change. It starts in New England on Sunday. Are you curious, Bilal? The Bet Online live money line for Sunday. What would you guess? I'm going to go on Bet Online right now. What would you guess the Jets spread is for the game in New England on Sunday? Jets, Pats, Jets on the road. What do you think the spread is?
Was it 5.5?
You think Jets by 5.5?
That's what they said?
It's Jets by 7. The Jets are favored by 7. Well, guess what? New England is one of the only teams they beat. They beat two of the worst teams in the league. They beat New England and Tennessee, two of the crappiest teams in the league. That's who they've beaten. So maybe they could beat the Patriots again. Basketball fans, guess what? The NBA is back tonight, and from opening tip-off to buzzer beaters, BetOnline has you covered with all the best odds, biggest promotions, and even live game betting for your favorite teams. This season, every game matters. BetOnline has every stat, matchup breakdown, and live odds and bets during the game. And it's not just the NBA. BetOnline has odds for everything. Obviously, I just mentioned football and the Jets, but they have baseball. The World Series is coming up. Bilal, you going to be watching the World Series?
Mm-hmm.
No? The Yankees are in the World Series.
I'll watch it. I'll watch it.
I wish it was against the Mets, but it's against the Dodgers. Still a good matchup. So you can get that on BetOnline too. Head to the website today to get it on America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline. The game starts here. BP. I hope it gets better from here. I hope they do win in New England by a touchdown. But guess what? I will not be betting the Jets. I will be betting New England to cover the 7 because I don't trust this team. I'm in for Jets. Bet on the Jets again. I've been betting against the Jets every week, and I've been making money off the Jets. So the very least I could do is make money.
Maybe you should be owner.
Maybe I should be owner. Yeah, I should be. I don't have the money to buy the team yet. But yeah, you know what? Maybe they should hire me to be the GM. You could be the head coach. We'll bring it full circle because I said you might be the only coaching option they have left with all the people that don't want to coach for Woody Johnson. But hey, you'll take it.
I'll take it.
If somebody offered you the Jets head coaching job today, would you take it?
I'll take it.
Yeah, okay.
For sure.
Hey, don't push Jeff Ulbrich out the door like that. I like Jeff Ulbrich.
I won't.
You can make him the DC.
I think he'll get you. You don't think he'll get a job somewhere else?
I don't know if he's going to get a head coaching job, right? He hasn't looked good yet as a head coach, right? Like he's looked overwhelmed. Now it's been a big change and it's right away. He's getting thrown into it. Do you think a lot of people are saying because he was the DC and like he was so focused on the defense and the defense feels like it's gotten worse since he became the head coach because he's probably shifting his focus to both sides. Do you think like Brant Boyer should have been the head coach just for the interim, just because you take a special teams guy who has his hands in everything already?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think it ever works like that. I don't think it ever works like that, man. I don't think it ever works like that.
All right. Well, at least I asked.
And I like Boyer, but nah.
Gotcha. All right. Until next time, everybody. Like, subscribe, share the podcast. Appreciate everyone for listening. We'll see you all. I don't know when. I'm not sure. I don't think I'm going to be around for pregame this week. So if you want Jets preview, maybe Sunday night I'll do something. Saturday night I'll do something. But that's game 2 of the World Series. I'm busy this week, so we'll see what happens. But until whenever next time is, like, subscribe, share the podcast. I appreciate everyone for listening. See ya.